Hello, hello,
Hello.
hello.
Hi.
In my defense, I was spending time with my girlfriend, so
Are we hosting? We're slowly but surely going to be a lot more professional. Hopefully, maybe. I don't know. Give us 100 or so episodes.
100 or so episode. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds about right, actually.
Yeah.
That's all right. Every whatever it called has growing pains.
Podcast.
Whatever we are. Yeah.
it's been up and down.
It has been my week. I've been playing lots and lots of video games and trying to get out of what episode number is this? I am so dumb right now. Is this 24? Is this legit our 24th
Yes,
episode?
24. Yes, 24.
Do you know what that means? I need scissors.
It means that if the podcast were a person, it would be of legal drinking age 3 episodes ago.
That makes sense, I guess.
So, yeah, how's everyone's week been?
Well, I've been playing video games. Tons and tons of shit, tons of video games. Actually, I've only been playing one video game. I've been playing a Dynasty Warriors style game in the way of Capcom. From a very little known franchise that Capcom that's very prominent in Japan, but only 2 games ever came out for it in the US. It's called Sengoku Basara. There was a if anyone ever heard of the game Devil Kings, that was the first Sengoku Basara in Japan, and it had very weird localization issues. But you know, I could probably talk about that later. Anybody else?
I've been playing the usual, Warframe.
I'm still
Yeah.
doing Stardew Valley when I get a chance.
Man, I've been trying to get into Stardew Valley, but every time I think about it, I just get distracted by Warframe. I don't know, it just seems like every time it seems like the game may have started to settle down, something new comes up that makes me want to pick it up again and play it like endlessly. For this weekend, right, we had the 1,000 Cuts event, which is basically a set of missions that you are only allowed to use your melee weapons and nothing else. It's actually a lot of fun. And the
Sounds
second
really
event,
challenging.
yeah, and the second event is the Void Trader thing that I've been talking about. Essentially, the Void Trader has been coming up with really good items, and everyone has been working their asses off farming in the Void in order to get parts that they can trade for ducats, and ducats is the currency that the Void Trader uses. So I managed to get everything for myself, and I actually helped my girlfriend Chelsea get a few parts herself. And so that's done, and it's actually a lot of fun. However, we've had an issue where people were really, really salty because those mods previously were kind of an exclusive event mod. And,
Oh boy.
yep, and they were selling it for like 1500 platinum, which is the in-game premium currency, right? And because of the Void Trader stocking those items up, suddenly the value of those items has gone down from 1500 to 100.
Oh boy.
So in other words, those trade sharkers, they are not happy.
Big market shakeup.
Yeah, which caused a DDoS to happen over the weekend, and people were having trouble logging in and staying connected.
Oh my.
As for the 1000 Cuts event,
Oh boy.
oh dear. But yeah, about the 1000 Cuts event, right? It's actually quite challenging for those who are not used to using melee weapons. But for me, I had no issues with it. It's actually a lot of fun to switch up your playstyle once in a while. And I got quite a few good items out of it.
Quite a few good items.
Yep.
Sounds accurate to me.
As I was saying, right, those items are items that you need to customize your weapon even more, because those items let you double up your mod slots capacity. And yeah, that's about it. Otherwise, I've just been a little bit stressed with real life due to my sister and her issues. I don't think it's appropriate to talk about here in the podcast, but let's just say that things in the house hasn't been too good lately.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Not much. Not much at all. Again, I
Society
barely...
is hard on the QQ.
Yeah, I barely had any time to get me Stardew Valley, and as a matter of fact, this is the first time I've managed to log in this week.
Society is tough on QQ.
It is, yeah. No, actually, quite the contrary. I have one of those jobs that takes up a lot of time, but is worth it.
Oh.
If that makes any sense.
It takes a lot of time, but it's worth it.
Yes. It's well compensated. So yeah, I didn't really have much time to do anything until now, and now I am tending to a farm.
Should I start
It's
singing
cute.
every time everyone stops talking?
Alright, for the first topic, we're gonna be talking about the recent botched localization of Fire Emblem. With the recent news of the Fire Emblem Fates game, and an alarming increase in the Flanderized localization as of late for North American releases, like probably Bravely Second, which is probably going to be butchered in the North American release. It is a breath of fresh air that a localization group with good track record is coming out with a release of a game, previously only available in Japan. This release is a continuation of the Trails in the Sky series, and has so far enjoyed niche success on Steam. Hopefully, with the growing unrest towards the practice of socially progressive slanted Flanderization of North American releases being pushed by more and more translation groups, if this localization goes well, it may be an example to be set for the quality to be demanded in future localization efforts. This may also help with the pushback against the apologism towards the social progressives who have been pushing this sort of flanderization of North American releases. So the question is it right that a line is to be drawn right now at socially progressive flanderization of games in North American releases? There has certainly been examples of really terrible localizations before this recent trend that has nothing to do with social progressivism. A good chunk of North American releases of Namco Bandai and Namco games, as well as a good portion of Nippon Ichi Software America games, fall under this category of just generally bad translations.
I believe we're in a very interesting time, and that probably is because of the recent issues that's cropped up with localization. But not just that, but just the current climate of the internet right now. Social issues being very prevalent. How can I put it? It's just politics is really, really important. I'm gonna say that in the dumbest way I can possibly say it. Politics are really, really important right now, and yeah, to some people, and that means that we are now. How can I put it? I'm not good at this. Can someone save me from this?
We are troopers.
Well, basically what it is that
That was perfect.
as far as I can tell, like companies like Nintendo have
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
done very, very heavy localization on some of their games.
Chris, I'm doing a podcast.
This they basically had a policy for ages of removing any references to things like religion or alcohol consumption.
Yeah, religion, alcohol consumption, that type of
And
stuff.
also references to the occult.
Yeah.
Yep, they've just outright took any of that out when they brought it over, even if it was considered perfectly acceptable in the original game.
Yeah, and
Yep, like they took crosses off churches for ages because
Yeah.
when bringing things to America, and it's like, yeah, okay, so who you thinking is going to be offended by that? I mean, but yeah,
Really?
so right now having it where I think companies like Nintendo are a little bit surprised that there is any pushback suddenly against what they've been doing. And I think that Nintendo of Japan might not actually be aware of
The
some
current-
of the things that are being changed right now. Like,
Yeah.
they don't even think about it. They just trust their localization houses because that's
Mhm.
what they've always done.
And Nintendo's
and-
always been kind of like a blind. They're kind of blind to the whole current. You know, they're just like a family company. Well, they prostrate themselves with that, it seems like. But posture not a good word. But they're a family company, and they're just seeing this as just a typical, you know, the things they have to go through in order to get Japanese games over to the U.S. And they're not really paying attention to the current social climate or anything like that, or the current you know, they basically I wouldn't say that they have their heads in the sand, but sort of. I would say that. Other than that, they just don't give a shit. It's all about money.
I guess if anything, right, it reveals the sort of priorities that most of the gaming crowd have for certain political issues. Like it's like there has been no outrage that Nintendo has been censoring references to religion or substance abuse, like alcohol and cigarettes. However, when sexism has been flanderized, like the issue of sexual issues, the issue of gender issues,
Yeah.
has been flanderized in local releases, then suddenly
Yeah.
there's been a big outrage over it.
I think what it is that Japan doesn't give a shit because this is just this issue is only being like this is only thing being complained about in America. Well, obviously because it's localization, but for the most part, Japanese audiences get their games. They get the games as they were made by the developers of the game without any alterations or something like that. And in the U.S., we get a lot of changes made, not just like like if it was just translating the games, which that's only part of localization. But we're getting our games basically edited. So back then, you know what it was? Back then, the main reason why we didn't care about it was because we didn't know anything about it, and that's what it all comes down to.
Either that or we didn't care about it because we were young and we were just happy to get our games.
Well, we didn't know about it. That's what the main thing comes down to. It's the internet. The internet has allowed people to be more aware of that. And I had a long conversation with somebody who was talking about localization. And one of the things they were saying it like you should be
Thankful?
But no, they were saying you should it shouldn't what content is in the Japanese version shouldn't matter or work out. I'm gonna mute for a little bit because the stuff real quick.
No, I think what he's saying is that the U.S. release should be judged on its own merits, not whether it was different than the Japanese version. I don't know if that's what he was saying or not, but I don't know. It just seems like very much like an issue that's always been there that folks are suddenly aware of, and whether it's going to change or not, in my view, is based purely on if that becomes a distinguishing market factor. If your game will be able to sell better and be marketed as being a superior game to a competing product because it has better or more pure or whatever is determined to be valuable localization, then you're going to see a change. If that does not become a distinguishing factor and basically the market decides that it doesn't care, then it's never going to change.
The interesting thing is that it has to take a how do you call this? The censorship or editing of sexual issues being brought up in a Japanese version of a video game in order for this outrage to rise up and actually make the changes to the market.
Yeah, well, I think this is the first time that a company has really seen major complaints over such an issue. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any response at all, and I think it's going to be up to the competition, right? I mean, here we are seeing a game being brought over with less, and we're not sure if it's in response or not to complaints over impure localization. But if it is, and that starts to become a factor in the marketing of the product, well, we have very interesting times ahead now, don't we?
Yeah.
I'm reminded, actually, of back in the SNES days with Mortal Kombat, right? That wasn't localization, that was a port of an arcade game. But when Nintendo lost out big to Sega because Sega was willing to allow blood. Yep. And the consumer recognized that was an inferior product in the view of the consumer, and the money went to Sega, and what do you know, the Mortal Kombat 2, you got a altered version. So I think if the trend continues or not, this multi-decade-old trend will all depend on if it becomes a distinguishing factor in marketing. Yep, it is going to be slow too. Because
Indeed,
it's something that
which is why
is very...
Which is why if anyone wants to make a big difference, right, there really should be a big push in importing the games instead and patching in the fan localization instead of buying the official localized version itself. That is also a valid strategy, but yeah, there needs to be a big, like a signal with our wallets that bad localization is not going to be tolerated much sooner, and that if companies want to survive, at least the localization teams want to survive, then they need to step up their game or get out.
Yeah, and some of what we're seeing is not even like flanderization. Some of it is just lazy stuff. Like that one S-ray. Yeah, that one S-ray. Yeah, that to me just sounds like more lazy than anything. It doesn't really seem like they were trying to remove anything, because I read the original conversation. There was nothing that I would think was even slightly controversial in that original conversation. That was just outright, like, changed for the heck of it. I really can't think of a reason. It was either a mistake, or it was lazy, or it was, just done for the heck of it.
And here I thought that translating Ragnarok to Kangaroo was the worst example of all.
What?
I mean, seriously, that was seriously what happened in the USA GBA translation of Tales of Fantasia. It is one of the worst translation jobs ever done, and it remains to be the worst translation job that has been ever done in the history of translation jobs until Fire Emblem Fates came out.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Well, I don't think that we'll see a change in just one game. If this becomes something that the consumer is particularly concerned about, it's going to take quite a while for there to be a visible market differentiation. That's enough to make publishers think, hey, we should use this as a feature, not as something that we pay as an afterthought for.
Yep. Also because market inertia is a thing. Like, if people are used to buying a thing, right, they will continue to buy that thing until there's a really, really good reason to not buy that thing.
Yep. Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, I don't know. I just think of this. What was it? It was a Bruce Lee movie. One time, when my friends got it out, I think they got it from the library. I don't think they rented it, but it was a Bruce Lee movie on VHS. It didn't have like options for different languages or anything like that. You just got what was on the, you got what was on the disc, not on the disc, on the tape. That was it. That was the only thing you had. And what it ended up being was it was dubbed all by one guy. Like, all the male voices were exactly the same. All the women's voices were him trying to sound like a woman. It was really, really bad. So I think it's a case of that, right? Sometimes, like that, it it doesn't matter what the quality of the original is. The quality of the thing that was brought over was just objectively bad. There's no bones about it. That was just a bad dub, regardless of how accurate it was. It did not make a good product.
Yep, and let's not forget Backstroke of the West.
Oh, you'll have to.
But we're having so much fun. Okay. I know. Alright, so the next topic is, well, BioWare getting their asses kicked yet again. So, things are not doing well for BioWare, as they report the loss of another writer, Cameron Harris, as she returns to Seattle to seek opportunities, get this, outside the industry. This news does not bode well for the future of BioWare's current and future projects, like Mass Effect Andromeda, as it most likely is going to be responsible for delays of those projects. If it's any consolation, former writer Drew Karpyshyn has recently returned to BioWare, although it is unsure if this will turn back the trend of declining quality of writing in BioWare games.
I can't give a strong opinion about that, unfortunately.
Go ahead. You say you could or you couldn't?
I can't, because I don't play enough BioWare games.
Oh, I see. Well, I'm...
Yeah, well,
Traffic lights.
this has almost become a habit of EA's, though. They tend to. I don't. This is just an outsider perspective, and it's kind of sad. They'll buy a studio who really cares about what they're doing, with a dev team that really cares about what they're doing, and then they'll. It seems to me like they're starving it of resources in some way, shape, or form. Like, they don't have the staff that they used to have. They don't have the budget that they used to have, or they don't have the time that they used to have to produce whatever it is. Then they'll come out with a game. It'll be slightly subpar from what it used to be, or sometimes majorly subpar from what it used to be before EA owned the studio. And then next thing you know, either the studio is being liquidated or people are start leaving it slowly to go to a company that actually cares about games. Instead of there's this video made by this guy called Samuel Online. The title of the video is very provocatively "Why EA Treats You Like a Little Bitch," and in it he makes a distinction between two motivations that you can have as a company, right? You can be trying to make games in order to make money, or you can be trying to make money in order to make more and better games. And EA is generally perceived as being in the former category, where they are making games in order to make money, and that doesn't sit well with all kinds of developers, right? Some of them, I've heard many stories about how passionate developers are about their craft sometimes, and working for a studio like that does not craft as seriously as they do. That's going to be hampering. And of course, if you if that happens, eventually you're going to get demoralized and you're going to leave and to set out on your own. That's just what's going to happen.
Speaking of which, wasn't there an incident? Well, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Do you have to set up a separate stream to a separate config thing?
I think it's
Huh.
because no, I think what happens is that your mic settings is what takes your voice, and the system like sound settings is what the speaker settings essentially is what took our voices. Have you checked the meters, the mic?
Uh-oh.
It has been. Oh, it hasn't.
So we should explain to the viewer what is going on, because I just realized the person who gave the explanation is the one that's having troubles. So this is probably very confusing to them. Basically, what is happening is, as you have probably noticed, is that Coda is having some microphone trouble. It hasn't been picking up Coda's voice this whole time. So if you've been hearing very large pauses during which no one is speaking, that is when Coda has been speaking. Now Coda is working on fixing his microphone, so you should be able to hear Coda shortly, and the podcast should resume as normal.
That's pretty insane.
Is it working
Um,
now, or?
have you checked the microphone gate settings? Yeah, because it could be that your microphone nose gate is set too high. Sorry, folks, we're having technical issues.
Please stand by.
That's really weird.
Oh boy.
Is the right input device selected? Is the other question. All right. So while Coda is working on those technical difficulties, we can keep talking about the BioWares losing yet another writer.
I think it's also a lot to do with the fact that I'm not sure if my memory serves me correctly, but hasn't EA been promising employee bonuses if their games reach a certain Metacritic score?
I know one studio doing that for a while, where it wasn't that you would get a bonus if you got a specific Metacritic score. It's that your bonus would be withheld if your Metacritic score was too low.
Yeah,
So
that is really, really, really toxic and really, really poisonous to studios like that, because like these studios need money. These studios need employee bonuses in order to survive, because they work like a madman during the crunch hours, and they have accumulated a lot of overtime in that period, right? And for them to withhold that sort of employee bonuses because of the lack of a Metacritic score, that is just predatory, and it should be illegal.
yeah, it's also, it depends how they file their papers too. Uh, for U.S. based studios, not all of EA studios are U.S. based. They have studios all around the world, but for U.S. based studios, they actually have the states a specific exemption in overtime law for people who work with in certain computer related fields. such as software development. So their employees might not even get overtime pay. They might just be expected to work overtime with their regular salary, and there's no legal recourse you can do really, unless because, like I said, they're called exempt positions.
Uh,
It's
so
it's very unusual. U.S. law is weird like that.
so why does anyone want to get into game development in America if that is the case?
If you're passionate about the medium, I mean, there's really not much else of a reason.
But
If you were to you take your skills and go, like, let's say you're a software developer, right? And you take your skills and you go to a corporation game studio, you're gonna make more money and you're gonna have more favorable hours. The only reason to go into game development is if you're passionate about it, that I can see. So it's makes it especially sad when a large company buys these smaller studios and runs them into the ground. Those people leaving, they're leaving because they. My guess would be they're leaving because they are no longer satisfied. Well, obviously because they're no longer satisfied with working there, but I would think it was because it's holding them back. They can't do what they're passionate about in the way that they want to anymore.
Oh yeah, because there's also the element of corporate control over their products.
Yep, control over the products, combined with possibly worse working conditions than what they had before.
Yep, and financial constriction. Like these three factors is what kills game studios when they get bought out by a big company like EA.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why, if anyone wants this to stop, they should just vote with their wallet and stop buying EA games. Period. Like
Yep.
seriously, you can live without EA games. Stop buying them.
Thankfully, if you're a PC gamer, EA makes this very easy because they decided that they were going to make their own digital distribution platform. So you can easily avoid EA games by just not installing Origin and staying well away from it.
Alright, on to the next topic, and this is going to be another doozy. Drugs and sports have always had an uneasy relationship. It gives athletes a boost in performance, and yet it is seen, rightfully so, as a form of cheating, and has been banned and monitored in most major sporting events. However, it would be hard to imagine that esports, which demands more mental acuity than physical fitness, would have issues with drug abuse on a similar scale. A while ago, it has been discovered that a drug called Adderall, usually used to treat ADHD, has been found to be used by a few professional esports teams to enhance in-game performance. The drug has the effect of decreasing fatigue and reducing reaction times, and this discovery has sent waves across the scene and had led to a lot of disqualifications. This caused a system to be put in place to police the use of drugs during esports events. Recently, another drug has been discovered that has been shown to be able to boost the user's focus, attention, and memory, which could have a dramatic effect on their performance in-game. This drug is called Ambrotose and has been developed by Manatech, a company known for also developing products to help gamers last through extended gaming binges.
Oh boy.
Performance enhancement drugs.
Yeah. This is an interesting topic because the issue of drugs and video game esports is a lot more grayer and a lot less clear-cut than, say, physical sports, because there is a lot of things we take every day that can actually alter our mental state for the better and for the worse. Like, for example, caffeine.
Yeah. Well, taking Adderall, that's an ADHD medicine, but it's like pretty close to basically an amphetamine.
Yeah, and let's not get into the fact that there are some people who actually need this medication in order to function in society. Like, there are some people who actually need stuff like, cannabis, the cannabinoids, and Adderall or other medication to keep their mental state in check, because sometimes they have mental illnesses that can basically spin their mental state out of control.
Yeah, I don't think you'll be seeing cannabis used as a performance enhancer, though. I think it would do quite the opposite. But yeah, uh-oh.
Oh boy.
Just for those of us who are listening, in case they can't hear, Coda is still having mic issues.
All
Apparently,
right.
Coda's just not going to be able to talk this episode.
All right, you can be our invisible hand then. Okay, so does anyone else have anything to say about this drug issue in esports?
Not a whole lot, unfortunately.
It makes me wonder, though, something that I'm wondering about at least is how, like, is this something that's always been happening in gaming contests, and just now that esports is becoming more formalized, we're hearing about it? Or is this a completely new phenomenon now that it's becoming more competitive? I don't know if that's really knowable, but I think it would be interesting to look into.
I think that it's probably a mix of a little bit of both. Like, cheating has always been a thing in competitive video games, whether or not it has been professional or not. And I'm pretty sure that there's always someone who's looking for that edge that no one else can see. And yeah, I mean, like, cheat devices and cheat programs have been pretty well documented throughout the years because it's been used so extensively. So I'm pretty sure that the next thing to do if you want to cheat and not be detected is to take drugs that basically boost your performance in games.
Well, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. It wasn't clear from the article, just that powder designed to help gamers? Is that like what they were designing it for? That Amberotose or whatever powder?
I'm not sure. Like, the article hasn't explained what this drug has been used, what has been designed for, but it just talks about what it can be used for. However, on the other hand, right, considering that this drug has been developed by a company that's been known for developing products to help gamers last through extended gaming binges, it is likely that it could be used as a drug to help gamers perform better.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reading, the quote is from Dr. Rolando Medella, who is the Manatech's Director of Clinical Research and Scientific Affairs, and he's directly saying, quoting about its use by video game players. So it sounds like they did produce it, with that intent in mind, which is kind of mind-blowing if you really think about it. Like, they're actually making designer drugs to boost video game performance.
Oh boy, and this is going to cause a little bit more waves around the whole esports scene, because honestly, right, the line between between like drug abuse and other legitimate forms of drug use and fair play is very, very gray and very, very blurred, because of the fact that A, it's a mental acuity sort of thing, and B, it is it is also a thing that everyone could be using in everyday use, or it's something that someone could be using that because they need it.
Yeah, and then there's also products that like, there are products that are so much a part of gaming culture that you really couldn't get rid of them, like caffeine. Could you imagine them doing away with caffeine? They couldn't, because, like, how many sponsors of gaming events are makers of caffeinated products. I don't think they actually have the option.
You can say goodbye to Red Bull and Mountain Dew.
Yeah, and I don't think that would fly. I think that they pay for too much stuff. They sponsor too much stuff. I don't think you can get rid of caffeine.
That's not getting to the fact that the simple act of eating any sort of carbohydrates can boost your body, can boost your mental acuity a little bit.
Yeah. So when they're coming up with these new things that are shown in clinical trials to improve your reaction time or whatever, it kind of leads to the question naturally: are we talking like this boosts you, like caffeine boosts you, or are we talking like this boosts you like Adderall boosts you? Those are different classes of things entirely.
Or like cocaine boosts you.
Oh yeah, that too.
Oh god, imagine someone taking cocaine and then playing Counter-Strike.
Oh my gosh. Oh my god.
That's zero MS reaction time.
Oh boy.
Got anything else to add here, Gremlin?
Is Gremlin here right now?
I got nothing. Honestly, got nothing.
Yeah, admittedly, this is something that only people who have even looked into esports would even care about, and I thought that, you know, maybe we might be able to talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I guess that this topic has been, with as far as this podcast is go.
Alright.
Alright, we'll move on to the next one. Does anyone want to read it?
Alright. Coda says
Oh
he
boy.
wants to read it, but of course that's not going to work.
No one can hear him.
So here we go. Apparently, when a recent GeForce driver update 364.47, when that update dropped, lots of gamers were eager to install it, hoping that it would help optimize their experience playing the new Tom Clancy game, The Division. However, they were rudely awakened from their dream when they realized that the update instead caused crashes, BSODs, and infinite reboot cycles. This issue raised questions as to whether or not these newly introduced features of GeForce Experience were something that gamers would want to embrace, as any new driver update pushed would be automatically installed without being WHQL approved. The argument raised here would be that it is the risk of what it is like to be on the bleeding edge of gaming technology, without realizing that with how unified graphic card architecture are these days, most drivers would be compatible across all models within a generation bracket of graphics cards. Not to mention that GeForce Experience is geared towards much more casual gamers that aren't used to manual graphics driver management. So, should graphics drivers be pushed to the public without being WHQL approved first? So basically, Microsoft has this certification process for device drivers, and apparently Nvidia got tired of going through that process, so they have this program called GeForce Experience. I actually have it installed right now on my laptop. Luckily, I was not hit with this issue, but GeForce Experience basically has a bunch of features to make using your graphics card easier. Like, it has profiles for different games with pre-configured settings for them based on your hardware. One of the features that they added is that this thing will now update for you automatically without requiring the WHQL certification process. So you can get your driver updates really, really quickly, but then you run risks like this with your new graphics card update just causing your computer not to boot.
So yeah, this is a big boner on GeForce's part. It's like, they didn't even bother to get it certified by Microsoft, and they just pushed the update out, and they are now paying the price for it.
Yeah, then again, I remember once when did Microsoft go through a phase rather trying to push graphics card updates through Windows Update?
I remember they used to do that, but I'm not sure if they do that anymore.
I remember they pushed an update to one of my graphics cards once. It went very badly, like very badly. So I'm not sure Microsoft is really, I'm not sure if I trust them much more than Nvidia, honestly, to deliver graphics card updates.
If
But,
I might play the devil's advocate here, I think it has more to do with the Windows Update being a piece of shit rather than the driver itself being terrible. Because, well, Windows Update, right, the way it works is that it only detects stuff that has been installed on the Windows side of things. And then they push like these extra graphics updates as a bonus. And so they don't really check if you have a newer version of the graphics card drivers installed before pushing their own update into it. And so what you have here is a situation where Windows Update could easily clobber the newer drivers with an older version of the drivers, which is going to cause a lot of problems because you can have like new pieces of the newer of the driver trying to communicate with the older pieces of the driver that has clobbered the new driver.
Yeah, I think that's what happened in this case. The solution that I ended up doing was booting into safe mode, getting the official installer for the driver, and just running that.
Yep.
That
So
seemed
yeah,
to fix it.
So I think that this is more of a case of Windows Update being garbage rather than the driver being shit.
Yep, that makes sense.
So yeah, this is really. So this is definitely on GeForce this time.
Yep.
And I have to say that this could be a big problem for PC gaming because of well, like this with this news, right? This sort of news is going to destroy confidence that anyone sitting on the fence between console gaming and PC gaming to go on the console side because they think, oh, I don't need to worry about this when I play my console games, so fuck PC gaming.
There's another thing that is going to be an issue for Nvidia as well, and that is generally Nvidia has had the reputation for driver stability versus their main competitor AMD. If they start to slowly have that reputation slip away, then that is a factor that differentiates them in the market that's going away, and I don't think that they want that to happen. I know I wouldn't want that to happen if I was.
I know I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
I mean, look what happened with 3DFX. We killed that competition, and now AMD and GeForce hasn't been as good as they should have been as a result.
Yeah, having less choices in the market is that's what you're gonna get.
And if your competitor is a lot weaker than you are, then you're going to get a lot more complacent and start to make a lot more mistakes yourself. So this could be a problem.
Yep.
And I'm sitting here with my AMD card kind of worried that AMD might get cocky and start releasing shitty drivers because they know that at least it's not going to be as bad as GeForce.
I certainly hope not. Yeah, I mean, I would hope that they would see this as an opportunity to fix their reputation, and I think that they could use it like that. If your competition screws up in the area that you have a reputation for being bad at, that to me looks like an opportunity to improve your own reputation versus them.
Yeah, and I have to say that AMD hasn't had a really good reputation for drivers anyway, so this could be an opportunity for AMD as well.
Yep.
Oh boy, this whole thing with drivers and them being shit has been a pretty long-standing problem, to be honest. Like, with every major update to the drivers, right, it seems like they've been adding less and less features and less flexibility for you to tinker with. Like, for example, I no longer have the ability to force proper scaling on my monitor if my monitor is set to a native resolution, and I cannot save like those scaling options between hotkeys. Like for example, if I want to set my monitor to go to like 1280 by 1024, it's going to try to stretch that resolution across my screen instead of like putting in black bars in between, as I have set it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's annoying. I remember I don't know. We're in a weird time right now where like almost every single like the two big expensive parts of your computer really have only two competitors, right? In the processor space, you have Intel and AMD, and in the video card space, you have Nvidia and AMD, and that's pretty much it. Like,
To be technical about it, honestly, I don't think the competition space in graphics card is as bad as the competition space in the CPU, because while AMD and Intel, right, it's just AMD and Intel, right? Nvidia and GeForce typically have a lot of like these different manufacturers that are competing against each other, even across the same brand and the same model.
yep. Although I am forgetting good old VIA for processors, although no one uses that I know of anymore. I used to actually own some VIA processors, but like, yeah, I don't think they ever licensed 64-bit, so they're still stuck on 32-bit processors, and they're not really competitive anymore as a result.
Speaking of which, is there any chance for Motorola to step up their game and enter the CPU arena?
It's nearly impossible to enter the x86 CPU arena due to all the different patent agreements. Basically, the only people who are allowed to make x86 and x64, which is the 64-bit extensions to x86, the only people who are allowed to make it are allowed to make these due to very crazy, tangled set of patent agreements. Like, it's really, really complicated. Something about AMD invented x64 when Intel was trying to go a different direction with 64-bit, and Intel still has patents on x86, so they kind of licensed them to each other. And then VIA had something that happened, and that allowed them to have some kind of patent agreement due to a settled lawsuit with Intel. It's just really confusing like that. It's basically a circumstance where you cannot enter that market competitively because you will get your rear end sued off.
That sounds like a anti-competitive lawsuit waiting to happen on both of AMD and Intel side.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny because I'm wondering how they're getting away with it. I'm wondering if they're pointing at other processors like ARM processors and saying, "See, there's other options if you're building a computer system." Well, yes, there is, but that means that like if you're a system on chip manufacturer for a smartphone, you're going to be buying a very different product than if you are making home PCs or something like that. It's not really, they don't really compete with each other.
Let's not mention the fact that a lot of software manufacturers and a lot of programmers are programmed to write programs that are designed to run on x86 or x64 CPUs.
Yep.
Like, you don't get any more ARM. You don't get much market traction by trying to program for ARM processors. And even then, you're going to be facing a lot of competition because let's just say that the landscape for mobile phone manufacturers is just as infested in sharks as the CPU landscape. Like, I remember seeing a chart of mobile phone companies like suing each other, and there has been, and what I saw was a very, very tangled network of arrows, like crisscrossing and pointing at each other and pointing at everyone else.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's time
I'm
we
not good. I'm
finish
not
this.
good with these tech subjects. You guys know that. I couldn't possibly
That's
give you a
okay.
good thing. As far as I know, I have no idea what you guys are talking about to begin with. Other than don't buy a GeForce, I guess.
I don't know. I'm not going to say not buy a GeForce because they are really, really good graphics cards. It's just that sometimes issues crop up, and it happens to both graphics cards. Well,
Yeah.
both types of them.
I've honestly had the same issue. I've owned Nvidia cards. I've owned AMD cards. I've had failures to boot using each of them after bad updates. This isn't something that's particularly new. It's just Nvidia has a better reputation for not having this happen. So having this happen to them is something that's more noticeable. Something that is a bigger problem for them.
It is also an issue that is aggravated by the fact that they have a program that is basically pushing these updates that aren't verified to users who may not know any better.
Yep.
Anyway,
kind
we've
of
run
a-
the course. Yeah, sorry.
Oh no, go on.
Oh, I was gonna say we've run the course of this topic, so we'll go to the final topic, which is Obsidian Entertainment Paradox announcing a new game, GDC, on 2016.
Who?
Check the chat. So, Paradox Interactive and Obsidian Entertainment are set to announce a new game at this year's GDC. A curious personality test was published on the Paradox website, which begins with an ominous question. How is your potential for evil? Evil is not a definable concept, as many of our grand strategy players might tell you. It is more of a viewpoint thing. Regardless, we would like to know your potential for what could commonly be considered evil deeds. So we put together this short, highly scientific test. Rest assured, the results will only be used for terrible, terrible things. The short personality test poses 4 questions that all gauge the amount of humanity you have, ranging from needlessly killing other humans for sport, hoarding limited food supplies for yourself, punishing rude baristas, and unwindling beings via some ridiculous options after having a bad day, and punishing subordinates of yours for not following precise orders. Once you complete the questionnaire, you'll be greeted by a time and date for the announcement, March 15th, 5 p.m. Pacific, which is the time zone of the developers conference in San Francisco. The announcement will be live streamed via Twitch. All these questions point to the running theme of your humanity in White Wolf's World of Darkness franchise of the vampire properties, which Paradox Interactive published from CCP Games. Despite this, Paradox is denying that the game is White Wolf related. We've asked for comment. So the question is, could we be seeing another vampire RPG for Obsidian Entertainment? And hopefully so. We'll know at this year's GDC.
Ah, interesting. So they're building hype to keeping it very mysterious then.
Yeah, the interesting thing is Paradox is denying that the game is White Wolf related. Yeah, if my hunch is... Yeah, alright, so he's saying, Koda is saying that the game is, well, whatever it is, right, it very, very much sounds like it's going to be White Wolf-esque despite them denying this. However, my view on this, and if my hunch is correct, is they might be working on another World of Darkness game that is not a World of Darkness game, essentially a spiritual successor.
Oh boy! Sounds delicious. I am very unenthusiastic about it, unfortunately.
I am fairly hyped because I've been a pretty big fan of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines.
Never played
If you
it.
remember this game, right? This game is essentially a vampire from the White Wolf Entertainment, like World of Darkness franchise. The vampire game, and it is set in a city where you wake up as a vampire, and it is basically like a huge like open world RPG, where your choices could reflect on you. Like if you do some things that are evil, your humanity will decrease, and if you do some things that are humane, your humanity will increase, and that will have an effect on the game's outcome. It is actually a very engaging RPG. However, it only enjoyed a cult success due to the fact that the game on release is basically unplayable. It cannot run because it uses an unfinished version of the Half-Life engine, Half-Life 2 engine, and they kind of ran out of time to polish like all of the kinks out. So they pretty much had to rely on the fans to fix the game for them so it can be played. Yeah, Activision really tried to take down fan patches of this game, and to me, right, that sounds like a big way to shoot yourself in the foot. Hopefully that really didn't happen because if we look around, we actually see a lot of people like working on. Well, actually, we've seen like a couple of like mod packs that everyone says they are must installed if you want to play this game. So yeah, thanks to the fans, we are able to enjoy Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines.
I'll be right back bathroom.
Okay.
I'll probably come back and the podcast will be over, but I'll be back.
Alright. So yeah, I'm actually pretty excited to see what this game is going to be, and if it's going to be anything like the Vampire series. What are your thoughts about this, QQ?
I've never actually played any of the Bloodlines games, which is kind of both a good and a bad thing, right? Because if what they're saying is true and this is like its own little franchise thing, then maybe it'll be require less knowledge to get into, and I can hop right in without knowing any of the backstory. Oh.
Yeah.
Coda's saying that the game is based on a tabletop RPG.
Yep. The game is based on a tabletop RPG, and essentially, right, the series has enjoyed quite a bit of a success in the tabletop RPG scene, and then they decided to make a couple of games so far. Like, so far, they made a couple of games, like video games, based on the tabletop RPG series. I think one of them is called...
Oh, I have played those.
Mm-hmm.
Two of the ones in the series I played through. I don't remember which ones they were. Two of the Hunter, the whatever. Those are cool. Not much story though. Definitely not an RPG. They were twin stick shooters, right? Coda's talking about Hunter the Reckoning, which is something that I have played.
Yeah. Myself, right, I always find myself drawn towards the true Bruja clan. However, I must say that QQ, if you want to get into the Vampire series, right, I highly recommend that you pick the Malkavian clan. You haven't lived until you played, either played a Malkavian or played in a group with a Malkavian player.
Oh, Malkavian. All I know about that word is the Malkavian mod for for Deus Ex.
Yep,
Do they-
and essentially, it is essentially like that. The Malkavians are basically batshit insane, and they can get away with doing the most insane things ever. Like, for example, suddenly creating a volcano from under the party, or winning an intimidate check with a mailbox.
Wow. Well, that sounds wild.
Yep, it is essentially a clan you want to play as if you want to create shenanigans.
Sounds just about right for me.
Exactly. Alright, so is that all? Is that all the things we can talk about?
Yeah, we should probably start wrapping it up soon.
Alright. Alright, we're going to be, that'll be the end of our podcast, and thanks for watching. We'll be seeing you next week with a few more new topics. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
And since Gremlin is AFK, I'll just say goodbye for him as well. Coda, hit the music.
Coda can hit the music, but not what will happen.
Actually, the streamers can hear it because it's going to be playing out through the speakers.
Oh, yeah.